I'm Cora, 31 years old. Just last week, my doorbell camera captured something I never imagined I'd witness. My parents were standing on my porch. Mom was rehearsing how to cry convincingly. Dad was quietly repeating, "We miss you so much, sweetheart," as if preparing lines for a school performance. And my sister Melanie stood next to them, directing every gesture like a stage director on Broadway. Mom, the tears should start before the apology. Dad, don't fold your arms, it looks fake. They practiced 6 full times before finally pressing the bell. They had no idea my Ring camera records everything, even the 12 minutes leading up to the ring. I watched the footage twice, then I opened the door with a calm smile. What I said next left all 3 of them completely stunned. Before I go on, if you think this story deserves to be heard, please take a second to like and subscribe, only if you're truly curious about what happens next, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Now, let me take you back 8 months to the day I realized $12,000 had disappeared from the account I'd created for my grandmother. Growing up, I was always the accommodating one. Melanie got the larger bedroom because she was the eldest. I understood. Melanie received new clothes while I wore her hand-me-downs. I understood. Melanie attended a private university while I went to community college because family finances are tight at the moment, honey. You get it, right? I always got it. Whenever I gently objected, Mom had her go-to line, "Why are you being so selfish? Your sister needs this more than you." That phrase became the constant background noise of my childhood. I became a nurse, advancing to the ICU at Providence Portland Medical Center. Steady paycheck, solid benefits, a career I truly loved. Yet somehow that reliability turned me into the family's personal bank. "Cora, Melanie's out of work again. Could you cover her rent this month?" "Cora, your sister's car died. She needs it for job hunting." "Cora, we're a bit short, just until payday." Out of curiosity, I once tallied it all up. Over 5 years, I'd given my family $34,000. Not $1 ever returned. I convinced myself it was okay. Family supports family, that's what good daughters do. But here's the truth about being the understanding one. People stop checking if you're all right. They simply assume you are. They assuming you'll never say no. They assume your own needs don't matter. And the moment you finally refuse, you suddenly become the selfish one. You become the villain. I didn't realize it then, but Melanie had relied on my endless compliance for years. When I finally stopped cooperating, she didn't just get upset, she got calculated. 2 years ago, Grandma Eleanor's health began failing. Medicare helped, but the gaps were crushing. Specialists, prescriptions, therapy, the costs piled up quickly. I proposed a joint savings account. Melanie and I would both contribute to cover Grandma's extras, a true family contribution. "Wonderful idea," Melanie agreed. "We'll each add what we can." I transferred $500 every month without fail. For 2 years straight, $12,000 total. One evening, I logged in to check the balance ahead of Grandma's heart appointment. $847. I stared, refreshed, checked again. Still $847. My hands trembled as I called Melanie. "Oh, that," she said lightly. "I shifted it into an investment. Real estate deal. It'll double in 6 months, I swear." "You took funds meant for Grandma's medical bills." "I didn't take it, I invested it." "Cora, stop being so dramatic." I drove to my parents' house that night, certain they'd be outraged, certain they'd force Melanie to repay it. Instead, Mom gave me that same disappointed look. "Why are you trying to humiliate your sister in front of everyone?" "She stole from Grandma's care fund." "She made a smart business move. You're blowing this out of proportion." Dad stayed quiet in his recliner, avoiding my eyes entirely. I left that evening knowing something had shattered permanently. Not just my faith in Melanie, but any hope that my parents would ever choose me. I blocked all 3 numbers the next morning. 8 months of quiet followed. 8 months of genuine calm. Until 3 weeks ago when the doorbell finally rang. Those 8 months were the first time I'd slept soundly since age 18. I rented a cozy one-bedroom in the Alberta Arts District. Nothing extravagant, just a small balcony for my plants. Pothos, snake plants, a fiddle leaf fig I refused to let die. My coworkers saw the difference. "You look lighter," my friend Priya remarked during a night shift, like a huge burden lifted. She was absolutely right. No more Sunday dinners praising Melanie's achievements while overlooking mine. No more quick favors draining hundreds from my account. No more serving as the family doormat. I'd installed the Ring camera upon moving in, purely for security. A single woman, you understand. I appreciated seeing who's at the door before answering. The only person I genuinely missed was Grandma. I attempted to call her several times, yet Melanie was invariably there by chance. "Oh, Grandma's resting. She isn't feeling well today. I'll let her know you phoned." Grandma never rang back. I suspected my messages never reached her. Her 75th birthday approached, October 15th. I had been marking the days, pondering how to visit without stepping into Melanie's path. Then a text arrived from an unfamiliar number. "Cora, darling, it's Grandma borrowing the neighbor's phone. My 75th birthday celebration is October 15th. I want you present. I have something significant to share with the family. Please come. I love you." I read the message 12 times. She desired my presence, but I knew Melanie would attend as well. I hadn't resolved what to do when, 3 days later, my doorbell chimed. The alert appeared on my phone. Motion sensed at front entrance. I launched the Ring app, anticipating a courier or perhaps a neighbor's wandering pet. What appeared caused my stomach to sink. Mom, Dad, Melanie positioned on my porch. My initial impulse was to act absent. Let them press the bell, wait them out, depart. Straightforward. Yet something compelled me to continue observing. They weren't pressing the bell. They simply stood conversing. I increased the volume. "Need to appear sincerely remorseful," Melanie was instructing. She held her phone, reviewing something on the display. Mom rehearsed the tears once more. Mom patted her eyes with a tissue. Like this. More authentic. Don't wipe too quickly. Allow them to fall. Dad cleared his throat. What was my line once more? "We miss you, sweetheart. Please come home." Melanie's tone remained detached, guiding. "Deliver it more slowly. Greater feeling." Dad attempted again. "We miss you, sweetheart. Please come home." Improved, yet uncross your arms. You seem guarded. I observed this for 12 minutes. 12 minutes of my mother honing her crying technique, my father committing his dialogue to memory, my sister refining their pacing, their facial expressions, their posture. "Remember," Melanie concluded at last, "the objective is to bring her to Grandma's birthday. We don't genuinely need to feel it. We only require her to believe we're contrite." Mom nodded. "Understood." Dad nodded. "Understood." Melanie smiled. "Excellent. Now press the bell." I preserved the recording, uploaded a backup to the cloud. Then I settled on my sofa, pulse racing, and reached a resolution. I would open that door, but not in the manner they anticipated. The doorbell sounded. I allotted myself 30 seconds, inhaled deeply, exhaled slowly, glanced at my reflection in the hall mirror. Then I swung the door open with a composed smile. Mom's act commenced instantly. Her eyes brimmed right on cue. "Cora, darling, we've missed you terribly." "Mom," I replied evenly. How many rehearsals did that require? She stiffened mid-sob. Dad's prepared words faltered in his throat. Melanie's poise fractured for precisely half a second. I caught it, that brief flicker of alarm in her gaze, before she regained control. "What are you implying?" I gestured toward the compact device affixed beside my entrance. "That's a Ring camera. It captures footage continuously." I paused, encompassing the 12 minutes prior to your ring. Silence descended. Mom's artificial tears halted immediately. Dad stared downward. Melanie's jaw clenched. I viewed the entire sequence, I continued, voice remaining level. The tear rehearsals, the dialogue memorization, the staging directions. I tilted my head slightly. We don't actually have to mean it. We just need her to think we're sorry. That was your line, wasn't it, Melanie? Melanie began. So here is my question. I rested against the doorframe, arms folded. What do you truly desire? Because reconciliation is evidently not it. Melanie regained her footing swiftly. Credit where due. You're recording your own relatives. That constitutes a privacy breach. This is my property. I possess every right to film my own front porch. You've transformed, Cora. You've grown so distant. I nearly laughed. I've become someone immune to theatrics. There's a distinction. Dad finally spoke, tone fragile. Your grandmother's 75th birthday arrives next week. She wishes you present. I know, I answered. She messaged me. So you'll attend? I regarded all of them. I'll attend for Grandma, not for any of you. Melanie's eyes narrowed. She wasn't accustomed to relinquishing command. If you're joining the celebration, she stated, we ought to arrive as one. Demonstrate to Grandma that the family stands united. No, I'll arrive independently when the event begins, not earlier. Mom advanced, her act discarded now, supplanted by something keener. You're acting irrational. How will it appear if you arrive apart? Questions will arise. Then allow the questions. Your grandmother reaches 75. This could be her last one. Mom halted herself, adjusted. This matters deeply to her. She desires her family united. And I will be there, just not according to your conditions. Melanie's phone vibrated. She checked the screen. A shadow crossed her features. Tension, unease. I must answer this. She withdrew from the porch, turning away from us. Tyler, I said I'm managing it. No, she hasn't consented yet. I know the deadline is... I couldn't catch the remainder, but I heard enough. Deadline. When Melanie returned, her composure had thinned, fissures visible beneath. What deadline? I inquired. None of your concern. Curious, since you're positioned on my porch requesting concessions. Certain matters seem distinctly my concern. Mom interjected swiftly. Let's focus on the birthday. Saturday at Grandma's residence, 2 o'clock. I'll be there at 2, and you will refrain from creating disturbances. I smiled, the identical serene smile I'd offered upon opening the door. I'm not the one creating disturbances, recall. They departed without further words. I watched their vehicle recede, then returned inside and replayed the ring footage once more. Something bigger unfolded with Melanie, something beyond just desiring my attendance at a birthday gathering, and I intended to uncover it. That night, sleep eluded me, not from distress. I had reconciled with my family's dysfunction months ago, but Melanie's call looped endlessly in my mind. I'm handling it. The deadline. What deadline precisely? For what? I retrieved my phone and scrolled through old contacts until locating the sole family member I still trusted, Aunt Diane, Mom's younger sister, a family law attorney with absolute intolerance for nonsense. She answered on the second ring. Cora, is everything all right? I'm okay, Aunt Diane, but I need to ask you something important. I recounted the entire story, the recording, the rehearsed remorse, Melanie's cryptic phone call. When I finished, Diane exhaled a long, weary breath. I wish I could claim surprise. You're not shocked, are you, honey? I've seen through Melanie since she was 16 and persuaded your parents to buy her a car by weeping over her supposed depression. She's gifted at it, I'll admit. Do you know what's really happening? Why they're so desperate for me at the party? A brief silence, then, I've been meaning to reach you. Your grandmother inquired about inheritance law last month. My breath hitched. What? She's reconsidering certain matters, the house in particular. She offered no specifics, but Diane paused. I believe she's developing doubts about some family members. The house. Grandma's Victorian in Laurelhurst, her home for 40 years, valued near $800,000. Melanie's anxious, I said slowly. That explains why she needs me present. If Grandma observes a united family, she might leave things unchanged. But if she detects discord, she'll probe deeper. Precisely. I thanked Diane and ended the call. So that was the motive. Melanie wasn't seeking reconciliation, she was orchestrating a performance, and I had suddenly become a risk to her script. The following morning, I did something untouched for 8 months. I opened our old family group chat. I'd exited when I went no contact, yet I'd preserved the archive. Some instinct had whispered I might need it one day. I scrolled backward through months of messages, past ignored birthday wishes, absent holiday photos, until I located what I sought. Melanie to Mom, 6 months earlier. If Cora asks for the money back, just say I'm struggling. She won't press. Mom's reply. She never does. That girl would hand you her last dollar if you cried convincingly enough. Melanie. Exactly. That's why she's so useful. Useful. I stared at the word until my eyes stung. I continued scrolling. More messages, more patterns. Just tell Kara it's for the family. She can't refuse that. Kara's too kind. She'll never truly sever ties. She's the easy one. Always has been. I captured screenshots of every line, every offhand belittling of my emotions, every synchronized scheme. Then I created a dedicated folder on my phone. The ring video, the group chat captures, 8 months of silence now granted a voice. I wasn't heading to Grandma's party to create drama. I wouldn't shout, weep, or plead for an apology that would never arrive. I intended something far simpler. I would speak the truth, and for once, I would carry evidence. If you've ever collected proof of someone's manipulation, texts, recordings, anything, did you eventually use it or did you keep it, waiting for the perfect moment? Share in the comments. This story is about to intensify, and I want you alongside me. Saturday arrived sooner than anticipated. Friday evening, I selected my outfit. Nothing theatrical, just a straightforward navy dress, understated jewelry, practical flats. I sought no spotlight. I aimed for presence. Aunt Diane phoned that afternoon. I'll be at the party. If you need me, come find me. Thank you, Cora. Her tone gentled. Whatever unfolds, remember, you belong there. That's your grandmother too. I reached Grandma's house precisely at 2 p.m. The Laurelhurst Victorian appeared unchanged. Fresh white paint, sweeping porch, rose bushes Grandma had tended before my birth. Cars crowded the street, more than I'd foreseen. Through the front window, figures moved inside. Aunts, uncles, cousins unseen for years. At least 30 guests, perhaps more. Melanie had craved an audience. She was about to receive one. I climbed the porch steps and rang the bell. Grandma opened the door herself. She seemed smaller, frailer than memory, yet those piercing blue eyes, so adept at seeing through me, brightened instantly. Kara! She drew me into a fierce embrace. My sweet girl, you came. Of course I came, Grandma. I wouldn't miss it. Over her shoulder, Melanie observed from the living room, champagne flute in hand, smile never touching her gaze. Mom stood nearby. Dad lingered by the fireplace, visibly uneasy. Come in, Grandma clasped my hand. I've kept a seat for you. She guided me through the house, past inquisitive glances from relatives, past my parents' strained smiles, to a chair beside her own, not relegated to some distant corner as Melanie likely intended, but directly next to the guest of honor. The signal was unmistakable. The celebration unfolded in a haze of polite exchanges and hors d'oeuvres. Aunt Rachel inquired about my work. Uncle Marcus praised my dress. Relatives silent for years now found me captivating. I understood why. In families like ours, absence breeds intrigue. 8 months of silence had allowed Melanie to shape the story. Now everyone wished to compare the tale with the woman before them. Aunt Diane located me near the buffet. How are you managing? Better than I anticipated. I glanced toward Melanie, who presided near the piano. She's tracking me closely. She's uneasy. Diane spoke softly. I spoke with your grandmother yesterday. She intends to announce something today regarding the house. My pulse quickened. What sort of announcement? She kept details private, but she did mention. Diane chose her words with care. She said she's been observing who shows genuine affection and who merely seeks something from her. Across the room, Grandma conversed with a neighbor, yet her gaze repeatedly drifted toward Melody with an expression I couldn't fully decipher. Melanie has no clue, I murmured. She believes this party is her platform. Diane rested her hand on my arm. Just be yourself today. That's enough. And if matters turn difficult, you have me, and you have the truth. She met my eyes steadily. In this family, that combination is rarer than most realize. I nodded, conscious of the phone's weight in my cardigan pocket. The ring footage, the screenshots, the unvarnished truth. I had no intention of deploying them, but if Melanie forced my hand, I was prepared. Midway through the celebration, Melanie made her approach. She drew me aside near the hallway, out of earshot from the guests. Her smile gleamed sweetly, yet her tone carried an edge. I'm astonished you actually showed up. Why the surprise? Grandma invited me. Grandma invites the entire circle. That doesn't mean everyone fits. I examined my sister's features, the flawless makeup, the artfully arranged hair, the designer gown likely exceeding my monthly rent. You seem tense, Melanie. Her smile wavered briefly. I'm perfectly fine. Your phone vibrates every few minutes, and each time your expression sours as though you're about to retch. You're seeing things that aren't there. Am I really? I inclined my head. Who's Tyler speaking with at the moment? Across the room, Tyler, Melanie's husband, cradled a drink and conversed with one of our cousins. He appeared wretched, shadows beneath his eyes, shoulders slumped beneath an invisible burden. Melanie's poise fractured just perceptibly. Keep away from my husband. I haven't exchanged a single word with him. See that it stayed that way. She began to depart, then pivoted. You believe you're so clever, don't you? Arms with your tiny doorbell camera and your sanctimonious demeanor, yet you grasp nothing of what's truly unfolding. Then illuminate me. For an instant, raw emotion streaked across her features, fear, perhaps, desperation, vanishing before I could label it. Just don't spoil this, she murmured, for Grandma's sake. I'm not here to spoil anything, Melanie. I'm here solely for Grandma, that's all. She searched my expression for any vulnerability, any fracture, and discovered none. Fine, she conceded at last. Just remain out of my path. She returned to the gathering, posture erect, smile reinstated. But I had glimpsed it, the fissures lurking beneath. Something was profoundly amiss. The backyard shimmered with elegance, string lights threaded through ancient oak branches, crisp white tablecloths draped long tables across the lawn. The caterer had arranged every element meticulously: silver chafing dishes, crystal stemware, a three-tiered cake inscribed with Happy 75th Eleanor in graceful lettering. Melanie had orchestrated this event with obsessive precision. She'd declared it in the group chat months earlier. I want Grandma's birthday to be flawless. Everyone must witness what a splendid family we are, what a splendid family we project. That was the true objective. I claimed a seat at one of the tables. Aunt Diane settled beside me. Across the yard, Mom glided among guests, bestowing cheek kisses and graciously accepting praise for her accomplished daughter, who had planned it all. Dad lingered solitary near the fence, nursing a beer. He'd scarcely addressed me since my arrival, yet I noticed another detail. Tyler at a table close to the bar. He was already on his third drink within the hour. His exchange with our cousin had concluded. Now he scrolled his phone, brow deeply furrowed. I observed Melanie approach him, bend close, whisper something cutting. Tyler's features tightened. He shook his head. She pressed again, more insistently. He rose abruptly and strode indoors. Melanie tracked his exit, jaw set hard. Trouble in paradise, Diane observed softly. Evidently. Curious timing. Before I could reply, a clear clinking pierced the murmur of conversation. All heads turned toward the patio, where Grandma stood, champagne flute raised. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice remarkably firm despite her age. Before we dine, I wish to share a few thoughts. The backyard fell silent. Melanie's complexion drained of color. She reacted swiftly. Before Grandma could proceed, Melanie stepped forward, glass aloft, her most radiant smile fixed firmly. Before you continue, Grandma, may I speak briefly? She awaited no approval. I simply want to extend a warm welcome to everyone, and especially to my younger sister, Cora, who has rejoined us. Every gaze shifted toward me. Some of you may have observed Cora's recent absence. Melanie's tone overflowed with contrived sympathy. She's endured quite a challenging period. Work pressures, certain personal matters. We've all been deeply concerned for her. Whispers spread through the assembly, sympathetic looks, compassionate nods. Mom sees the cue perfectly. It's true, Cora has been struggling. We're simply relieved she feels strong enough to be with us today. I sense the atmosphere tilt, the storyline constructed piece by careful piece. Poor Cora, delicate Cora, unsteady Cora. They were framing me before I uttered a syllable. Thankfully, Melanie pressed on. Family stands by one another always, regardless of circumstances. She lifted her glass toward Grandma Eleanor and, to family. To family, the gathering echoed. I raised my glass but left it untouched. Across the yard, I met Grandma's gaze. She regarded me with an expression difficult to decipher. Not pity, but something keener, something perceptive. Aunt Diane leaned nearer. "You all right?" "Perfectly." I kept my tone steady. "Merely observing. She's attempting to undermine you before you can speak." "I know." "Will you permit it?" I considered the video stored on my phone, the screenshots, the accumulated evidence. "Not yet," I whispered, but she remains unaware of that. Melanie continued beaming, savoring her moment. She had no inkling of what lay ahead, nor did anyone else. Dinner arrived. I sat beside Grandma, precisely as she had arranged. Melanie sat opposite, scrutinizing my every movement. The meal was superb, Grandma had always chosen well, yet I scarcely registered the flavors. My attention remained fixed on the dynamics. Uncle Marcus had swallowed Melanie's performance entirely. He repeatedly inquired whether I felt improved, whether work had overwhelmed me. I smiled politely and assured him I was fine. Cousin Rachel remained unconvinced. She alternated glances between Melanie and me, eyes narrowed. She had always been perceptive. Aunt Diane dined composedly, her lawyer's impassive mask revealing nothing. And Grandma? Grandma observed it all. When Melanie excused herself to the restroom, I felt Grandma's gentle hand cover mine. "You're exercising remarkable restraint," she said under her breath. "I noticed your expression during Melanie's little address." Grandma's gaze held quiet understanding. Most would have interrupted, defended themselves immediately. Would that have accomplished anything? No, she squeezed my fingers. It would not. Then I shall wait. Grandma regarded me for a long, measured moment. "You've changed, Cora. Not in the manner your mother describes. You've put down roots." I found myself at a loss for words. "I have something significant to address with the family after dinner," she went on. "Something vital. When the moment arrives, I want you to listen, truly listen." "Of course, Grandma. And whatever unfolds," she leaned in closer, "know that I perceive far more than most realize." Melanie reappeared at the table, her poise fully restored. Grandma released my hand and resumed her meal as though the exchange had never occurred. Yet her words lingered. "I perceive far more." What precisely had she observed, and what course did she intend to take? After dinner, I excused myself to use the restroom. On my return, I passed the open kitchen window. Tyler stood outside, braced against the fence, phone to his ear. His voice carried plainly through the screen. "I told you I can't secure more time. The collectors show no mercy." He paused, absorbing the response. $50,000, man. By month's end, she swore she'd have it by now. $50,000? I froze in place. Yes, the gambling. Online poker, sports bets, everything. I only learned recently. Another pause. She claimed her grandmother would cover it. No, it hasn't materialized yet. That's the entire reason for this party. I pressed against the wall, pulse hammering. If Eleanor doesn't deliver, I don't know how we'll manage. Mel's already exhausted her sister. That's why Ka severed ties. And now, his voice fractured. I'm finished, Marcus. I can't continue like this. I'm filing for divorce next week. He ended the call. I heard a trembling exhale, then footsteps retreating toward the side of the house, away from me. I stood motionless, piecing it together. $50,000 in gambling debt. That explained why Melanie had withdrawn the $12,000 from Grandma's medical fund, why she so desperately needed me present to project family unity before any inheritance decision, why the apology had been rehearsed, why desperation shadowed her every glance, why Tyler appeared so utterly shattered. The full picture finally crystallized. Melanie wasn't merely manipulating me, she was sinking, and she had been clutching at everyone around her as makeshift lifelines, dragging them down in the process. I returned to the gathering, resolve firmly set. I had no plan to expose Melanie outright, but if she pressed too far, I would not shield her either. As the sun dipped lower, Grandma rose once more. The string lights shone brighter against the deepening twilight. Conversations hushed. 30 pairs of eyes turned toward the matriarch at the table's head. "Thank you for humoring an old woman," Grandma began, her voice slicing cleanly through the evening stillness. 75 years is a considerable span, long enough to accumulate a few truths. She paused, surveying the assembled faces. "I've reflected deeply on this house, on its future once I'm no longer here." Melanie stiffened in her seat. Mom leaned forward attentively. Even Dad lifted his gaze from his glass. "But before I address tomorrow," Grandma continued, "I wish to speak of yesterday, of how we've treated one another in this family." My heart quickened. I've observed patterns over the years, patterns I often left unremarked. Favoritism, callousness, exploiting those too gentle to refuse. Her eyes flicked toward me for the briefest instant. I regret my silence, but I'm too old now to feign blindness to what stands plain before me. Melanie's smile had hardened into something rigid, a mask slipping out of alignment. "Grandma," she interjected, voice strained yet artificially warm, "this is your birthday. We should focus on celebration." "I am celebrating," Grandma replied, tone soft yet unyielding. "I'm celebrating truth, for once." The backyard fell utterly still. Grandma turned to face me directly. "Cora, darling, I need to pose a question before everyone." I felt the pressure of every gaze. "Yes, Grandma?" "Why have you not spoken to your parents in 8 months?" The question drifted in the air like lingering smoke, and I recognized the pivotal instant. Melanie's anxiety radiated across the table. "Grandma, this isn't suitable," she began. "I did not ask you, Melanie." Grandma's words remained velvet-wrapped steel. I asked Cora. 30 people waited, breath held. I drew a steadying breath. "I ceased contact because of the savings account, Grandma, the one I established for your medical care." Murmurs stirred through the guests. "I contributed monthly for 2 years, $500 each time, $12,000 altogether. I kept my tone even. 8 months ago, when I checked the balance, nearly all of it had vanished." Grandma nodded slowly. "And where did the money go?" Melanie took it. She claimed it was for an investment opportunity. I met my sister's eyes. When I confronted her, Mom and Dad accused me of shaming the family. They called me selfish, so I walked away. The ensuing silence pressed like a physical weight. Mom spoke first. "Cora, this isn't the moment or the setting." "Linda." Grandma's single word silenced her instantly. "But she's distorting the facts." "Is she?" Grandma shifted her gaze to Melanie. "Did you take the money?" Melanie's facade finally splintered. Tears, genuine this time, gathered in her eyes. "Grandma, you don't understand. I intended to multiply it for your sake. Cora is exaggerating. She always does." $12,000, yes or no? Melanie's lips parted, closed, parted once more. I planned to repay it. A collective intake of breath swept the crowd. Grandma closed her eyes briefly. When they reopened, they glistened, yet her voice held firm. "Thank you for your candor, Cora." She addressed the entire assembly. "And now you all understand why I've reconsidered certain matters." Melanie blanched. "What matters, Grandma?" Grandma offered no reply. She needed none. Melanie pivoted swiftly. "This is precisely what I feared." Her voice quavered, performance flawless once more. "Cora arrived intending to undermine me, to turn everyone against me." "Melanie," Mom attempted intervention. "No, Mom, everyone deserves to hear this." Melanie rose, facing the gathering directly. "My sister has always envied me. Always. And when I made one error, one poor financial choice, she severed ties, abandoned the family, and now she returns on Grandma's cherished day to dismantle everything." Several older relatives shifted uneasily. They yearned to accept her version. It was simpler than confronting the harsher reality. "I'm not trying to destroy anything," I said evenly. "I merely answered Grandma's question honestly." "With lies," Melanie shot back. "Is it a lie that you took the money?" "I told you I intended to repay it." "With what exactly, Melanie?" The question struck hard. She had no reply because we both understood the truth. There was no repayment coming. There never had been. Suddenly, Tyler rose from his seat. Every head turned. His face flushed. Alcohol, shame, years of accumulated strain. "Tell them," he said quietly. Melanie stiffened. "Tyler, sit down." "Tell them, Mel, or I will." "Tyler!" $50,000, his voice broke. "That's the amount she owes. Gambling debts, online betting. She's been deceiving all of you for years." The backyard exploded. Gasps, murmurs, a glass shattered somewhere. Melanie whirled on her husband, her facade utterly demolished. "How dare you?" "I'm finished shielding you. I'm finished lying." He addressed the gathering. Grandma, me, everyone who had bought Melanie's act. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have spoken up long ago." Then he walked off, leaving Melanie isolated. The uproar handed her an opening. "This is a setup." Her voice climbed over the noise. "All of it. Cora orchestrated it. She manipulated Tyler. She's manipulating everyone." "Melanie, stop." Dad's protest sounded feeble. "No, you all know Cora. Sweet, innocent, ever-helpful Cora. But she's not what she appears." Melanie pointed at me, finger unsteady. "She's secretly recorded our private conversation at her apartment. What kind of person does that?" I swung back to me. "She's been gathering evidence against her own family, plotting this ambush. She's disturbed. She needs help, not a stage." The tide was turning again. I could sense it. Some were beginning to accept her version. I glanced at Aunt Diane. She offered the faintest nod. "You wish to discuss what I recorded?" I drew out my phone. "Very well, let's discuss it." "Cora, don't you dare." I angled the screen toward the table and pressed play. Melanie's voice rang across the yard. "Mom, practice the tears again. More natural. Let them fall. Then, Mom, like this." Then Dad reciting, "We miss you, sweetheart." And Melanie, unmistakable, "Remember, the goal is to bring her to Grandma's birthday. We don't actually have to mean it. We just need her to believe we're sorry." The footage concluded. No one stirred. Grandma's expression remained inscrutable. Mom had turned ashen. Dad stared at the ground as if hoping it would open beneath him. "That's—" Melanie's voice emerged strangled. "That's been edited. She edited it." "Ring camera footage includes embedded metadata." Aunt Diane's tone sliced through cleanly. "Timestamps, geolocation. Altering it without detectable traces is virtually impossible. I'm an attorney. I know." Melanie had exhausted every resource. No tears left, no excuses, no performance potent enough to override her own recorded words. The mask had vanished. Have you ever clung to proof of someone's deceit? Texts, recordings, anything, waiting for the precise moment to reveal it? Did using it feel justified, or did it reshape you in unexpected ways? Share your experience in the comments. I want to read your stories. We're nearing the close now. The aftermath is about to unfold. Grandma Eleanor rose slowly from her chair. The backyard had fallen completely still. Even the night insects seemed to pause. "I've heard enough." Her voice carried no volume, yet it required none. "Melanie," she faced her eldest granddaughter, "I love you. I've loved you from the day you entered this world. That love remains unchanged." Melanie's lip quivered. "Grandma, but I can no longer trust you." The words landed softly, yet with crushing force. "And I cannot reward conduct that wounds those I cherish." She turned to my parents. "Linda, Robert, you raised both my granddaughters. Somewhere along the path, you taught one that deception was permissible and the other that her emotions held no weight." Mom opened her mouth to object. "Don't." Grandma's upraised hand halted her instantly. "I've observed this family for decades. I witnessed what you did to Cora. The loans never repaid, the sacrifices ignored, the blame she bore simply for requesting fairness." Dad's shoulders sagged. "I'm 75 years old," Grandma continued. "I have no time left for facades. So here is what will happen." She surveyed the gathered relatives. "Next week, I meet with my attorney to revise my estate documents. The details remain private, but I want every person here to grasp one truth." Her gaze settled on me. "Those who have offered genuine love, not performances, not duty-bound gestures, but authentic love, will be provided for." Then she looked at Melanie. "And those who have not will face the consequences." Grandma settled back into her seat, lifted her water glass, and took a measured sip. For all intents and purposes, the party had ended, yet Grandma still had more to say. Guests began to disperse, some towards the bar, some to their cars, some indoors to flee the strain. I remained seated. Mom approached first, her features twisted with barely restrained anger masked as pain. "I hope you're pleased with yourself." "I'm not here for pleasure, Mom. I came because Grandma invited me. You humiliated your sister before the entire family." I met her eyes. Really met them. Melanie humiliated herself. I simply refused to conceal it any longer. "You could have resolved this privately." "I attempted that 8 months ago. You labeled me selfish and took her side." Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. She had no counter. I stood. "I love you, Mom. I love Dad as well, but I cannot maintain relationships with people who refuse to respect me." "So what? You're cutting us off again?" "No. The door remains open." I kept my tone steady, measured. "But if you choose to step through, it must be honestly. No rehearsed lines, no theatrics, just truth." Dad had lingered nearby, listening. His eyes were rimmed red. "Dad," I said gently, "I meant every word. I'm here whenever you're ready for real conversation." He gave a single swift nod, then averted his gaze. I moved to Grandma and clasped beside her chair. She clasped my hand. "Thank you," I whispered, "for asking the question, for truly listening." "Oh, my dear, thank you for speaking the truth." She squeezed my fingers warmly.
It requires real courage to speak truth in a family accustomed to soothing illusions. I held her in an embrace longer and more tightly than usual. "Happy birthday, Grandma. The finest gift I've received in years." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Having you here again." I wasn't truly back, not entirely, yet I wasn't absent anymore either. I located Melanie beside the rose bushes. She stood solitary, mascara streaked, champagne flute drained. The celebration carried on around her, yet no one drew near. Those who had lauded her planning an hour earlier now steered clear. I hadn't intended to speak with her, but she noticed me passing and spoke first. "Satisfied now?" I paused. "No, not satisfied." "You could have deceived me with that look." Her laugh carried sharp bitterness. You achieved precisely what you desired. What I desired was the return of $12,000 intended for Grandma's medical needs. Honestly, you're still fixated on that? You asked what I wanted. That is my answer. She regarded me steadily. The mask had vanished completely. Only weariness remained, layered over what might have been genuine fear. I'm going to lose it all, she murmured. Tyler's leaving, debt collectors are closing in, and now Grandma knows about the gambling. She recoiled slightly. I overheard Tyler's call. For a fleeting second, she appeared on the verge of real tears. I never intended for it to spiral this far. Her voice fractured. It began modestly, a few wagers. Then I couldn't pull back. I kept convincing myself that one substantial win would resolve everything. But you never won. No, I never did. We stood there, two sisters divided by decades of divergent paths. Seek genuine help, Melanie. Professional support. Gamblers Anonymous. Therapy. Not another scheme. Not another deception. As if anyone would assist me now. You won't maneuver your way free this time. She offered no reply. I walked away, leaving her among the blooming roses. As I approached the house, raised voices drifted from the driveway. Tyler and Melanie arguing near the parked cars. I told you I was finished. You can't simply abandon me. I didn't glance back. Some ruins are not yours to repair. 1 week later, the aftermath continued to settle. My phone buzzed constantly, messages from relatives silent for years. Aunt Patricia apologized for accepting Melanie's account. Cousin Rachel confessed she'd long sensed something amiss. Uncle Marcus admitted he'd misjudged me with misplaced pity. Opinions flowed freely now that truth had surfaced. Aunt Diane provided updates on the wider repercussions. Tyler filed for divorce 3 days post-party. He'd quietly documented Melanie's gambling for months, evidently preparing his position. Through Diane, he sent me a brief note. I regret not speaking sooner. Shame held me back. I understood shame. It transforms potential courage into silence. Melanie removed half the family from her social media. The remainder removed her. Her real estate site went offline. Whether license revoked or simply unable to face scrutiny, no one knew. Mom telephoned once. Only once. I don't know what you expect me to say, Cora. Neither do I, Mom. A prolonged silence. I required time to absorb everything. So do I. She ended the call without farewell, yet without shouting or accusation. Perhaps a small step forward, perhaps mere fatigue. Dad emailed, 3 concise lines. Cora, I love you. I'm sorry. When you're prepared, I'll be waiting. I reread those words at length. 27 years of quiet, now condensed to 3 sentences. Insufficient, yet meaningful. I archived the message, offered no reply. Not yet. Certain doors should remain ajar, even if entry isn't immediate. Others must stay shut until those beyond demonstrate authentic change. I was learning to distinguish between them. Sunday afternoon at Grandma's, only the 2 of us. We sat in her garden, October sunlight warming the same rose bushes. She'd prepared Earl Grey, my preferred, and arranged shortbread on her mother's fine china. You appear more at ease, she observed. Honestly, the first time in years. She nodded, comprehending the unsaid. I met my attorney Tuesday, she remarked lightly, sipping tea. Grandma, you needn't explain. I'm not revealing my decisions. That remains private. Her eyes sparkled with quiet amusement. I'm merely sharing that I've decided. I laughed softly beside myself. Understood. But I want you to hear this, Cora. She placed her cup down carefully. You didn't act for the sake of the house. I know you didn't. Of course not. Others might have. Others did. No names necessary. She smiled faintly. Yet you attended my birthday because I invited you. You spoke truth because I requested it. And you would have done both regardless of any inheritance. Tears welled unexpectedly. You're the sole person in this family who never sought anything from me. Grandma extended her hand across the table and clasped mine. Do you realize how uncommon that is? How invaluable? I simply wanted time with you. Precisely, darling. That is my entire point. We rested in tranquil quiet, observing bees weave among the roses. Join me for dinner next Sunday, she said at last, and the Sunday following, and everyone you can range. I'd welcome that. Excellent, because at 75, I intend to spend my remaining days with those who cherish me for myself. She pressed my fingers gently. Not for what I might provide. Agreed. For the first time in years, I felt I possessed a family, modest in size, yet genuine. The message arrived 2 weeks after the party. Melanie's name appeared on my screen. I'd unblocked her, not from forgiveness, but from curiosity. Are you content now? You've destroyed my life. I studied the words at length. Then another followed. Tyler left. You knew it, didn't you? Of course you did. You likely assisted him. I remained silent. Grandma refuses my calls. Mom and Dad scarcely speak to me. The entire family regards me like I'm guilty of a crime. Still no reply from me. This is what you desired, correct? Poor, pitiful Cora, forever the victim. Now everyone pities you. My thumbs rested above the keyboard. Part of me yearned to answer, to justify, to clarify, to attempt one final bridge to the sister I once adored. But wisdom prevailed. No words from me would alter her course. Melanie wasn't reaching out for reconciliation. She sought to transfer her burden of guilt, to recast me as the antagonist in her narrative so she could evade accountability.
One final message arrived. The house should have been mine. I'm the eldest. I've sacrificed everything for this family, and you swoop in with your little recording and steal it all? There it lay exposed. The house, the inheritance, the true fixation that had driven her from the start. She still believed this revolved around money. She still failed to grasp the deeper truth. I blocked her number once more, placed the phone aside, and gazed out at the rain tracing slow paths down the window pane. My sister was sinking in a pit of her own creation, and she expected me to dive in beside her. Not this time. Not ever again. Some individuals cannot be rescued. Some refuse rescue entirely. They merely crave companionship in their ruin. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, cradling a warm cup of tea amid the quiet I had rightfully claimed. The fiddle-leaf cig stood lush and vigorous. 3 fresh leaves had unfurled since I'd gone no contact. I sometimes imagined it had detected the shift within me, the lifting of burdens, the clearing of stale air. I reflected on the entire sequence, the footage, the party, the unmasking. Certain people might label my actions revenge, yet it carried none of revenge's bitterness. It felt like a long-held breath finally released, like permission at last to voice my own account. For years I had swallowed my pain to preserve superficial harmony. I had convinced myself that love demanded endurance of any mistreatment, that family automatically canceled all accountability. I had been mistaken. Love is not mute endurance. It is candor. It is mutual regard. It is choosing one another, not from duty, but from authentic desire. Melanie never chose me. She exploited me, and my parents permitted it. That was not love. That was expediency. I considered the younger version of myself, the one who recoiled at the accusation of selfishness, who poured herself out until emptiness remained. She lingers within me, likely always will, but she no longer holds the reins. I do, and this iteration of me, the one who utters no when necessary, who retains evidence, who declines to serve as anyone's welcome mat, is the self I am learning to cherish, not because she is flawless, not because she exacted retribution, but because she has ceased forsaking herself for those unworthy of her devotion. Beyond the glass, Portland's gentle rain persisted, soft, persistent, purifying. I drained my tea and slipped into bed. Tomorrow held work. Sunday promised dinner with Grandma. That sufficed. For the first time in memory, it felt like abundance. 1 month on, life had settled into a fresh cadence. Hospital shifts, Sunday dinners with Grandma, leisurely strolls through the Alberta Arts District on free days, therapy sessions every other Thursday, something I had finally permitted myself after years of insisting I was fine. I had not been fine. Perhaps no one ever is entirely, but I was learning, expanding, mending. Grandma and I had eased into a gentle rhythm. Tea amid her garden roses, recollections of her girlhood, inquiries about my days to which she listened with full presence. She never disclosed the contents of her revised will, and I never inquired. The matter had never concerned inheritance. It never would. Dad's most recent email arrived last week, longer, more considered. I've reflected on your words about honesty. I'm uncertain whether I'm prepared for that discussion yet, but I want you to understand I am making an effort. I've joined a support group for parents who'll have strained ties with their grown children. I'm absorbing lessons I wish I had grasped decades earlier. I love you, Dad. Tears came as I read. Then I replied, that touches me more deeply than you realize. I love you too. I remain here whenever you're ready. Mom has not contacted me again. She may yet, she may not. I have found acceptance in either outcome. As for Melanie, word reached me through Aunt Diane that she had joined Gamblers Anonymous. Tyler mentioned it during the divorce process. He wanted the family to know. I hope the program brings her relief. I truly do. Yet she is no longer my charge. My duty belongs to myself now, to the existence I am constructing, to the limits I am learning to maintain with steady hands. The door stands neither bolted nor flung wide. It rests precisely where it ought to be, and so do I. In the quiet nights that followed, one question occupied my thoughts repeatedly. Why? Not the victim's why. Why did they treat me this way? I had left that inquiry behind. Here's the rewritten version with very minor refinements, polished phrasing, smoother elegance, and heightened clarity, while preserving the exact same word count, approximately 580 words, and emotional core. I meant, why does this pattern persist? Why do families like mine take root? Here's what I've come to understand. My sister isn't evil. I realize that's difficult to accept after everything I've shared. But Melanie didn't one morning resolve to become manipulative. She was raised hearing she was exceptional, the golden child, destined for greatness. When life refused to align with that promise, when her business faltered, when gambling took hold, when her marriage fractured, she lacked the inner resources to face it. So she performed. That was the only language she'd been taught. Psychologists describe it as narcissistic adaptation. When your entire identity hinges on appearing successful, you'll sacrifice almost anything to preserve the illusion, even the people who care for you. I'm not excusing her. Comprehension does not equal absolution, yet understanding frees me from awaiting an apology that will never arrive. And my parents weren't villains either. They were frightened. Mom lived in dread of discord, of the extended family's judgment, of confronting the reality of her perfect daughter. Dad feared everything. It felt safer to follow Mom's lead, to remain silent, to allow someone else to absorb the blame. Fear shrinks people. It nudges them toward comfort instead of fairness. I understand it. I was afraid once too. Afraid of being labeled selfish, of becoming the troublesome one, of losing the family I believed I required. This is what I've learned. Some fears deserve to be confronted, and some family is worth only what it demands in exchange for belonging. If any of this echoes in your own experience, if you're the accommodating one, the peacemaker, the ever-understanding sibling, I want you to hear this clearly. Kindness is lovely, but kindness without limits is merely self-erasure masquerading as goodness. You are permitted to say no. You are permitted to keep records. You are permitted to love others while safeguarding yourself from their harm. These are not opposites. They are essentials for survival. And when someone brands you selfish for refusing to be exploited, that single word reveals precisely what they were taking from you.
Trust the quiet signal in your gut. I finally did, and it rescued me. If you've ever had to establish boundaries with the people who raised you, you know it ranks among the most difficult acts a human can perform. It doesn't signify a lack of love, it signifies you finally learned to extend love to yourself as well. Have you faced a situation similar to mine? Have you preserved evidence, drawn a firm line, stepped away from those who proved undeserving of your devotion? Share in the comments. Your story holds weight, and it might grant someone else the strength to voice theirs. If this touched you, please like, subscribe, and tap the bell. And if you're drawn to more narratives about family dynamics, setting boundaries, and navigating the chaos, look in the description. I've linked several I believe you'll recognize yourself in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying. And thank you for believing.